Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Foreign Takes. I'm your host, YT, with Mr. KG, very sad KG, and Mr. Big Lev, a very frustrated Big Lev. Today we're going to talk about the Premier League, some other ongoings. How you doing, boys? How was your weekend?
It's okay, man. Once you're out of title race, it's just not as much fun to watch. But just counting down the days.
Till the season ends. So about you, KG?
My weekend was good. My work week was not good. It didn't start off well. I'm seriously considering life choice.
You're supporting who? City now instead?
No, I'm not gonna be supporting anyone else. I'm just not gonna turn on a game. Why would I? 2 games left. Just wait for the Euros when there's gonna be proper quality football, or the Champions League semifinals. Forget about it.
I feel like this is where everyone is at. I mean, we might as well just start reviewing. Because speaking of the title race, so it was. I think they're still in the title race, surprisingly, but Liverpool beat Spurs at home 4-2, which was a flattering score. Beglev, I think, would you say you expected this result, or does this come out of the thin air in many ways?
I didn't care at that result anymore, to be honest. I would not expect a 4-2. I think we would have won, especially considering the scam that was the first match with Tottenham this season. But yeah, I'm surprised that Spurs collapsed the way they did. First against Chelsea in a midweek, where they got absolutely destroyed, and then they didn't have much of a fight with us either. It was 4-2, but it could have been way worse because we probably missed a lot of chances again. So, weak finish for the Spurs, man.
Very weak, right? They seem
Um,
to be crashing towards the end of the
Yeah.
season.
And the
yeah,
problem is now I'm worried that they're not going to show up against City either. So City, I think, just gonna roll over them.
yeah, because they're
Um,
literally the only one left
Yep.
for our city to stop City.
right? And this is what everyone is banking on: is that City's the bogey team is Spurs. It's Spurs. Doesn't seem like it's going to be the case this year.
So for this game, there were two major talking points. I think one was Liverpool and Salah. Salah, we presume, a big left presume that Salah is going to be gone next season, but he came out and said that he's staying, and he scored. Did he score a one goal or a brace? I'm not quite sure, but
One.
he got his goal and kind of signaled that I'm staying. And what do you think? Do you think it's he's going to be good next season? It's just a temporary dip. He was injured. He's going to be back. He's going to be around him that the new team is formed.
I mean, we don't know if he's gonna stay, right? He said that now the new manager has not arrived yet. We don't know if there's a concrete interest again from Saudi Arabia or anywhere else, and we don't know how much money they're gonna offer. One thing I'm pretty sure though is this is gonna be the last summer we can get a lot of money for him, because next summer he can have a great next year, and I think he's still gonna be our best attacker. But you're not gonna be able to sell him for that 70, 80, 100 million anymore. On the other hand, how good was Cody Gakpo and where was he all this time, man? Maybe
Yeah,
he should have played. Maybe he should have played all this time when Darwin Nunes was getting all the chances.
He played on the left this time, though, right? As opposed to that,
Yeah,
Roberto Firmino role where he was kind of drifting as a 9, a 10. Like, he played on the left. It was the best game he's had in the season. Is that controversial to say?
yeah, yeah. He was definitely the best game. He could
It
have.
wasn't.
He probably should have had one or two more assists. He just set up so many good opportunities for everyone.
the second talking point that I had would be Tottenham and how nobody's questioning Ange and them being smacked and smacked and smacked. And I think the argument of, oh, it's his first year is already outdated. By the time we reach this stage of the season where multiple teams had, all the top teams are closer to the top four, played in multiple European games and crashed out. They didn't have a European run. They didn't have a cup run. They didn't get into the EFL Cup even. And they're just looking smashed by the way they're playing. And is there any criticism? Is this a period of, oh, okay, they're going to buy more players and they're going to stabilize next year when they're going to have two competitions, or is it just him being found out early?
I think it's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B, right? I think they've definitely been found out, but we've seen this before. We talked about this, I remember, all the way back in December, that Spurs is feast or famine, right? When they play well, they're amazing, but the moment you can unlock it, they don't change their style. So if the formula works against them, why would you change it? So there's games, like Big Web was saying, they could destroy it 4-0, and there's games where they win these high score. But the thing is, it's always high scoring. So I think coming into next year, Ange will actually have the ability to get two or three more players for his system. I think next year will be determining. Like come November, come December, if it's the same up and down, and they're still making the same mistakes, I think the conversation will really be very much louder. But you have to give him 1 year, right? Like every other
Yeah,
manager, I feel like you just got to give them enough time to actually implement their thoughts.
I agree. I don't think this year you can say that Ange has not been a success. Yes, they didn't make it into that top four, which would have been perfect considering their start. But compare that to the expectation we had for Tottenham. Harry Kane left. They were terrible the year before, and no one knew what was going to happen. And there is hope there that I think they just ran out of steam. But next year they have a couple of good additions. They can be in that top four conversation.
Yeah.
However, yeah, as you said, the question is are they gonna be this unstable next year as well, and gonna have this crazy high line and crazy back and forth? Because they cannot succeed uh, in that sense. And what I mean by cannot succeed is they cannot win anything. They can be
Yeah.
a
Yes.
top four team, but unless they figure out how to be more stable, they're gonna be, your regular old Tottenham not winning anything.
I agree, but on that similar note about Ange and criticism, I think on the flip side is Pochettino, who we gave a lot of criticism, but also some props to. And if you look at it now, Chelsea are 54 points, 6 points behind Spurs at 60 points. They're in for a shout for a European spot. It feels like Chelsea's had a similar up down season, but they're beginning to finish stronger as opposed to Spurs, who are struggling. What do we think about Chelsea? Like, can they finish top seven? Can they finish even top five? Is that a possibility?
They'll finish top seven, but
I mean,
because
they're
United are
seventh
going to
now,
fall off.
so
Yeah, they're going to finish where they are. They're not. I don't think Tottenham are going to let this slip. Even if they lose to City, they're going to win the rest of the the 2 games that are remaining. And Chelsea may drop a point because it's just the law of averages. I know they've been winning for the past 5 games, 6 games, so they're about to draw or lose one more game before the end. So I think they're going to end in the top seven. I think Newcastle is going to maybe edge them on top as well because they just have an easier schedule. In terms of Chelsea, props to Poch. Finally got them together. I think he gave them a big pep talk after those losses. And next season, I don't know. I don't know the rules that they have left, or like the ability to maneuver that they have left in terms of from the financial perspective. Who can they bring? Who can they sell? Clearly, they need a striker. Clearly, they need a proper midfielder there. Clearly, they need two center backs probably. Like there's a lot of work to be done. I mean, I know Desasi's good, but then they'll need one more who's gonna illuminate and substitute Thiago Silva. They wanted what's it called, Marco Cucurella gone, and they'll need to substitute the left back. So there's a lot of places that they would rather improve. I don't know how much power they're gonna have in the summer.
the structural problems that Chelsea have now are still very much there. And
Uh,
you add that to, hey, they're probably very close to reaching the financial fair play rules at this point.
Yeah, I mean
So,
they sold the hotel, right? It's like they own a hotel, they got a fair
yeah,
market value, so they do have a couple tricks up their sleeve. But I'm with you guys. I think this is why
yeah,
they've been all the noise about Conor Gallagher, right? Obviously, he's by far their most consistent midfielder, and he's homegrown, so that's why they were saying a sale of him is pure profit, and that'll fund another three, fourth players. But it seems weird, right? I'm like, does it actually make sense to sell your one homegrown player who's really decent in order to fund more?
yeah, that makes no sense. Sell someone else. Sell, all these players you have on a loan. Sell all this, random ass people you bought for 20 million each, even if it's at a loss. Don't sell probably your second best player for the season after Cole Palmer, and especially one who is homegrown and like lets you fill in that quota and has a lot of passion for the club.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Can we settle? Cole Palmer, just on that point, he has to go. I mean, we never know what Southgate thinks, but he should be going to with the England squad, right? Cole
Oh yeah,
Palmer.
he's starting over Saka on the right one. It's
Oh,
a
interesting. You
no-brainer,
think so?
of course.
And
You
not
got
in the 10?
Bellingham, Rice, and 12. Who did they have? They said they had someone else.
So here's
Belling-
my proposition: Bellingham, Rice as your two center mids, Cole Palmer as the attacking mid. Of course, what's his name can go up front, Bellingham, but he can cover. Saka on the right, wherever you want on the left. There's too many choices, and then Kane up front. Is that not the most reasonable way to fit all of them?
Who are other midfielders? I'm forgetting about someone. That's why I said Palmer on the right.
Foden?
Madison, Foden.
Foden. Oh yeah, Foden on the left. No, Foden on the left. Palmer on the right. Harry Kane up front. Bellingham, Rice, and then there's plethora of other midfielders that you can use in there. And then why
Interesting.
would you start Saka? What does Saka do this season that made him score the penalty?
No,
That was dodgy.
you start Palmer as a central attacking midfielder, and you start Saka on the right. Why are you trying to fit a
Because
midfielder
Palmer
into a
plays
right
best on the
winger?
right. He
No,
plays best for
Palmer.
Chelsea on the right.
Disagree. That's
He
because
plays best everywhere, man.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with. You know what? Let's take it back for a second because we're going to talk about the Euros later. But just going back to this weekend's results, let's do it very quickly because no one wants to. But City had another boring win, 5-1. I think the only thing to really talk about the City game was probably the worst decision of the weekend. Well, that's actually hard to say, but the worst decision penalty wise, right? There was the dodgiest penalty given.
Referees again is just it was the most dodgiest decision ever, and people are saying, oh, but they won them 5-1. Why are you so la, 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 la? It was the first goal. They haven't had much. Like it was the game where like City first 10 minutes in didn't do much. Clearly they were trying, but they didn't even have a shot on target. And then this penalty, how can you call that a penalty? Is given, and then obviously Wolves are gonna just drown tools. The second penalty was more of a penalty than the first one, and then Haaland gets the hat trick of a century or whatever you want to call it, 2 pens and one header. Great job, and they have a back and forth with Roy Keane. Good for him to boost his name and boost those stats, but not for me. Not for
Yeah.
me.
Not another. I think we're talking about this because in the Liverpool game and then again today and then the Arsenal game, there's decisions you see that the refs make between games that are completely inconsistent, right? Especially with the goalkeepers this weekend. So I think today United had a goal written off that was considered a foul, but the same exact incident with Arsenal was not a foul. It's been the whole season, right? At this stage, I feel like we've all just kind of given up. We just expect it to be inconsistent, right? There's no more
It's just
expectations.
bad refereeing, and I do not expect it this way. You know, like when refereeing has their own league, you sort of say, like whenever there's a World Cup, the best leagues referee usually refs the World Cup game. And I don't think, and I hope at the Euros the English refs are not present because they're just awful. Because their best ref that the refs games is Anthony Taylor, and he's been shite. Like if the Champions League semifinals, if you look at the Real Madrid versus Bayern Munich game, was refed near to perfection. And then the Borussia Dortmund versus PSG one was hectic, chaotic. It was all over the place. And who, if you would have to guess, where did Anthony Taylor ref in your opinion? Which game was
I
Anthony
wonder.
Taylor's?
I wonder which chaotic game he
Uh,
might have been in charge of.
yeah, and he's the best that they could be. He's like those two refs are essentially butting their heads. Who's gonna get the final? And I hope Anthony Taylor doesn't get the final because he's just the
Terrible.
most terrible, and he's the best of the Premier League.
Yeah.
I cannot. Howard Webb needs to be fired. Like Big Love was furiously screaming with spit on his mouth back when they didn't award the goal to Liverpool. And at the end of the season, if I feel like it's going to go to the opposite direction. I don't feel like they're going to fire Howard Webb. I'm probably going to give him a medal somewhere in
Uh,
Saudi Arabia, probably, or in
Of
Dubai.
course, man. They ran a perfect campaign of silencing dissenting voices and gaslighting us into believing VAR is the problem, not the corrupt and terrible at their job referees.
Terrible.
Especially
Remember,
by the
in
pundits.
the middle of the season, every week there was like some discussions. They were outraged. now the latest thing was the Forest owner message, and there was such a consistent messaging about like dragging that guy down, or how dare he raise a voice about referees and so on and so forth. They basically just bullied us into not saying anything about referees.
Yeah.
I agree.
And those two, just Carragher and Neville, coming out and be like, "Oh no, this is the hardest job in football." Blah blah blah. No, get out of here.
Yeah,
You're
I
just,
agree.
doing what Sky Sports tells you to say.
Yeah.
So it's frustrating because all we want is some consistency and some quality, and just this is not how it's achieved.
I
I
mean,
agree.
Kyrie and them are also like part of the. They know people in the FA, and they get the scoop behind the scenes. Blah 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 blah. It's all obvious, and it's just corrupt, and the pundits are there. The media is there usually to protect the people in charge, and
Yes, and they're
it's
doing a
always
good
that.
job, right? If you look at it on like a different perspective, is they're doing exactly what they're there to do, which is protect them. Just taking
Mhm.
it back for speaking of terrible decisions, Arsenal also. It's one of those things when a team wins, you don't talk about the refereeing decisions typically, but it's just frustrating because Arsenal had a terrible, terrible foul that was not given as a red card, but they went to a 3-0 win against Bournemouth. At this stage, Arsenal has just done what they can, right? Like, even you guys as not supporters, there's not much more you can ask from Arsenal. They're winning the games, but City is just have that 1 point advantage. It's
Could have done
over.
more earlier in the season.
Yeah,
That's
I agreed. But at this stage, this is usually when we've collapsed, and
yeah.
it is what it is, right? Like
You
we're
just
winning all the games.
move the
Hey,
collapse
welcome to
mid-season.
the show, bro. Welcome to the show. Remember when Liverpool were like won 18 games and they had like 95 or 97 points and still lost twice?
Yeah.
That's how it feels, man. That's the worst feeling because like you're doing your job, but this is just some juggernaut.
Yes, juggernaut. But I think just on that point, this is like a pet peeve of mine, is because obviously, I've been through the highs and the lows. Fans who think the only measure of success is titles are my least favorite fans, right? 'Cause I think in my mind, it's similar to you, Big Lev. This is still considered a good era of Liverpool, right? Like the last 4, 5, 6 seasons, despite the losses to to City, you'd say you enjoyed watching the season. You enjoyed the football. You enjoyed the team, right? Is that,
Oh
or am
no,
I
it was an
completely off?
amazing season, man. One of the most entertaining seasons we had in terms of competitiveness up until probably like 4, 5, 6 games left in a season. We had a real three-horse race. And
Exactly.
honestly, the only thing that would have made it better is if there was less injuries. Because I
Yeah.
think
Yes.
both of our teams just had some very long-term injuries to key players, and it's frustrating to watch. But
Yeah.
yeah,
But this is like going back on the point, because I know KG has been always giving us crap about, we failed. And you're right. Like last year, we stumbled at the end when it was important. But, if you ask me, like, regardless of what happened at the end of the season, I am enjoying this Arsenal. Like, how can you not, right? It's like you have to enjoy your team when they're doing well. And
yep.
because the good times don't last. I think KG's most appreciative of that right now. But this is why I feel like
I'm gonna hand you the enjoyment trophy at the end of the season when City celebrates the Premier League. I will
we
take that cup and you enjoy it. You go like,
we
enjoyment
we
trophy.
enjoyed
Ooh.
this. We enjoyed this season.
Yeah,
Champions 2023,
yeah.
2024.
listen, take what you can, man.
You're one of those Arsenal fans that clown Tottenham for celebrating the win of the league in October, and then you go, "Oh, enjoyment at the end of the season."
No, no,
It's
but seriously though, it's like there's no expectation. Like this City team is just unreal because
no.
Big Lev has said it.
I understand what you're saying. After a long period of time when you were not doing well and you lived with Mister Good Evening in one corner, I get it. I get it. It's good to watch your team compete, but it will be good for season one, season two, and then it's going to get frustrating because at the end of the day,
Yes.
you want to win. Obviously, winning the title matters more
Yep.
than the enjoyment trophy. You cannot be saying that, "Oh, I'm enjoying my game," and even if we don't win, I'm fine with it
Oh,
because
I
that's why you
agree.
don't win.
No, no, no. I agree. Listen, at the end of the day, it's like you have to beat them, right? And Liverpool managed it once, and that was one of the greatest teams we've seen, in all honesty, in like the last 20, 30 years. So, yeah, it's like, it's not over, right? This team is still, I think, the second youngest team that we have. But I think this is like a meta point about fans and how annoying a lot of them are. They're talking like it's the end of the world, and like, do you not remember where we were 4 years ago, 8 years ago? So
No,
as
for
far as our
sure. And I hope City just get their 115 charges done so there's an
Yeah.
easier way
do you think it's
about
going
it.
to happen this year? Like, do you think by the start of next season there will be any resolution with the City
No,
stuff?
No.
no.
None, right? I don't expect anything to happen,
I
honestly.
think right now the hearing is scheduled for September,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty sure that's like the best case scenario. They're just gonna use their lawyers to drag it out. Worst case scenario, they'll completely get away with it.
I'll
I
tell you
think the
what's going to
most
be
realistic is like a slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
the most realistic thing I'm going to tell you you will see is if, and this is an if because the title race is still going, if Arsenal loses the title and City win and then Guardiola walks out winning the title going like I won four in a row, won the treble, leave me alone, I'm leaving. That is an indication that something's good. Like he probably got a tip off that, you know what, your legacy is about to be ruined in 6 months. Like we're not going to be able to do anything about it end of the year. Leave now, everyone's going to forget about it. Your name is going to be kind of, hey, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened there. I'm in Maldives enjoying myself.
Yeah.
It's not me. That's what,
That's a very good the point,
because
honestly.
part of me, I think that either him, because the FA Cup final is after, I believe, the Premier League. So either at the FA Cup or at the Premier League, one of those things he's gonna. If he announces, I have a feeling. I don't know why. I just have a feeling that he may announce because Klopp is leaving. He has won four in a row, and he's won the Champions League. He's won a treble. He's done everything with City. What's the motivation for him to stay, especially with the dark cloud
But
almost here?
where would he go though?
He'll rest for a couple of years, and then the opportunities will open up. Maybe Barcelona will clean their books, and they'll invite him again. Maybe I don't know. Maybe
Wherever he
PSG
wants,
will.
right? The
Yeah,
truth is he can go literally any club and they will take him, essentially.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Essentially,
guess.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, I have a funny feeling because Klopp is leaving and probably there's not enough a motivator of him. And then again, there's another option of that Arteta maybe is going to be pushing him next year, and he would want to beat Arteta, but realistically, he beat Arteta twice.
Yeah.
And Arteta invested 100 million in this squad, which was a fair enough competitor this year, which he beat.
Yeah.
So I don't see
And,
any motivation
and
for him.
it's his first job, right? Arteta is doing this as his first job, so credits where credit's due. But
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, I'm just saying from Pep's perspective, not
no,
from
I agree.
Arteta's perspective.
No, I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. On the point of managers, I think today, so we're recording this on a Monday. Moyes was officially announced that he's leaving West Ham. I think the three of us have gone back and forth about it all year long. But is it fair to say that it's kind of weird that the West Ham fans are so happy for his leaving? Because Moyes won a European Cup, had a top six finish, took over when they were 17th, and has managed to keep them in the top eight. Does this seem kind of like a unfair breakup in many ways that he's being pushed out?
I don't think it's an unfair breakup. I know because Big Love was saying that before that Moyes, like this is the best that you can get West Ham, essentially, and they decided that it's not. They probably want to see more entertaining football, and if they're growth oriented, they would probably think we could and should have finished fifth this season. They can, they could have if they played better. They had everything there, but in reality, ah, I think it's an unfair breakup. I think he's done what he could have done to the maximum for West Ham. Won a trophy, kept you in the Europa League till the quarterfinals. What else? What else do you want? He checked all the boxes, and you still got rid of him. It's a little bit harsh on Moisey. It's just the football itself is not entertaining, in my opinion.
It feels like
I think it's also just a disagreement with the direction between the front office of the club and what Moise wants. You know, Moise wanted the Slaphead, the McToms, the Scottish R9, and the front office wanted Kudus. And it seems like front office was right.
yeah,
So
it's a
they
good point.
probably thinking, hey, what if we get a manager that also aligns with the direction of and the play style that we want to go through? We can probably do better. I don't think they
To,
can do much better.
to be fair, to
But
Maguire was
I
okay.
Aston Villa, I think, is their guiding light. They're saying, hey, if Aston Villa can do it, why can't we? And it's a good question, and it's a legit question to have. It's like, hey, we can spend even more than Aston Villa, and we can have like the same quality of squad. If Mr. Good Evening can do it, we should be able to find similar caliber of manager.
It's a good point. I think the big worry for me is I don't know how many people have actually really watched Lopetegui's football. It's just as boring as Moyes football. The only difference is Moyes does it with like 30% possession. Lopetegui wants all the possession, but it's equally as boring. So I think that's the big thing for me. I'm like, I think people are going to be in for a big surprise at the start of next year. They think it's going to be like this attractive game. No, it's very boring football. It just you happen to have a lot of possession. So I think it's going to be weird.
Lopetegui got fired or like, walked out on Wolves, and Wolves were not the most scoring side when he walked out on. Like it was, they barely got a goal in game. So I don't think West Ham they're gonna fall off next season, especially with everyone investing and all around them. Like Newcastle's not gonna be higher when Chelsea potentially are gonna be higher. There's going to be all these teams. Maybe Tottenham's going to fall off. Maybe Aston Villa's going to fall off. But if Aston Villa and Tottenham fall off, and Chelsea and Newcastle and maybe United are going to be up there, that means that there's more competition for West Ham, and doing this boring style of football is not going to stand a chance against the Tottenhams, the Chelseas. But it's looking forward a bit too much. We don't know who they're going to sign. We
Yeah,
don't
it's
know
fair.
what they're going to be. But I mean, Maguire could have been amazing for this West Ham side. Honestly, Maguire redeems himself. Honestly, I would not be sad if Maguire stayed for another season and was okay with being a sub.
I think on that point, just quickly, we're gonna pick your thoughts. Today's game, of course, Palace absolutely destroyed United. To be honest, there's like not much to say, but it's you just want the season to be over. Is there much more to say besides that?
Eric Ten Hag needs to be sucked today. I'm
It,
refreshing on the side, seeing if they had the balls to fire him. In contrast to what we said, West Ham's decision to sack Moyes was stupid because they had 3 games to go or 2 games to go, and you go, oh, okay, we're done with you. 2 games to go. When they could have ended the season, they could have just told them at the end of the season, hey, we're moving on different directions. This right now is the exact reason why you fire Eric Ten Hag, even though you have an FA Cup final. This is not the football that's going to win you the FA Cup final. This is not a football that'll make you finish in the top 5th position, 6th position. It's just abysmal. And you can, there's fans that always go, oh, injuries, and all that. But it's not 4-0 to Crystal Palace types of decision. You're missing 2 center backs and a left back, essentially. You're missing Bruno. Okay, you could have gotten a draw, not 4-0. Okay.
Yeah. And I'll tell you one more thing. This league ain't big enough for 2 bold Dutch managers, bro. 2 bold fraud Dutch managers.
Inception. It's
Yeah.
gonna be over.
No, but yeah,
He's
probably
a dead
should.
man walking, right? Like we all know he's getting the sacking, right? He's a dead man walking. Like, the season is over for United, and it's over, right? He's not continuing. Like there's no chance in hell
He should be sacked right now. Like right. And I told you that before. Like all the injuries that they're getting, the muscle injuries, it's about the amount of workload that they're getting, and people can. There's a lot of factors influencing that. And it's a lot of games. It's the World Cup in the winter that we had, which pushed a lot of games. And the last season that United had that was successful, which they had 57 games, joint most with City and their travel run. I get all of that. So the only thing that if you look at City and look at United, who had the same amount of games, and the injuries, the type of injuries that you get is by having a lot of workload and a lot of running. The only thing that you can do is manage it. That's the only thing that you are that it's possible for you to influence the situation that you're in. You can't influence the amount of games you play, especially if you're successful. You can't influence the amount of World Cup games that your players are going. That's all indication of a successful team that you're having, that they're going to these games. But the only thing that you can influence is the amount of training you're doing, the amount of running you're doing, the trainings, what is the physical status of those players, how are they feeling, what are they doing to rest. And I think that is where Ten Hag is lacking, because he's one of those players that we've been talking about on our pod this whole year, that he's one of those stubborn players who goes like, if you pass 5 meters there, it's going to be pass needs to go 5 meters there. If it doesn't go there, it's not successful. And he will not give in to the players' demands or to the players' bodies' demands this type. And that's why your only center back who was proper got injured, didn't play today. He should be sacked. It's his own making. Yeah. There are multiple things that he probably couldn't have influenced, but you pay the price for the stupid decisions that you make. Yeah. And on this point, a shout out to Johnny Evans, who came in
Yes.
after an injury, played the full 90 minutes, made one mistake, which is forgiven because it came from the mistakes of other players. Played for 90 minutes, was miles better than anyone else on the team. Looked like someone who actually gives a shit just because he's old school. So kudos to him. I hope he stays in as part of the next manager's camp, or if Ten Hag stays as part of the backroom staff with him.
Yeah. I think this is funny because we're going to talk about him. Someone who had talked a lot about what United needed is in the news now, just switching off the Premier League, is Ragnick. So, so Ragnick had talked about open heart surgery for United. He's now the current manager of Austria, and of course, the other shit show of Europe is FC Hollywood, aka Bayern Munich. He basically had a huge list of demands. They met them, and he still rejected them. Crazy going on, right? With Bayern, it's an absolute disaster of a club right now, and
They're
we
still
had
reeling. They're still reeling for that terrible decision to get rid of Nagelsmann. Was it right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, it
and
was.
and just then get Tuchel in. They still have not recovered. But that's what you get when you let your management team become a bunch of dinosaurs with no direction, which is what Bayern have allowed themselves to do. And bro,
Who are they going to get?
Salihamidzic with this multiple strategic moves.
Nagelsmann got the last laugh though. His
Yes, he
name was
did.
curating about getting back, and he was like, "Oh yeah, sure, I'm open to it." And then the last one, they probably like, "Okay, we're gonna offer it to him." He signed an extension deal with Germany. Probably got a pay rise from German National Football Association, and said, "Fuck you" to Bayern. Amazing play.
It's going to be interesting, right? Because I think now they were talking about possibly. I mean, the rumors are out of control because you can see that's when you know nothing. They're talking about Ten Hag. They're talking about
They can
Schmitz,
get Ten
or
Hag.
and
They can
listen,
get
they're
Ten
also
Hag.
talking about Schmidt for 30 million, which is a crazy signing. I
I
mean, it's obviously
no,
rumors.
and I saw a rumor that like, oh, they're asking Tuchel to actually stay. And I was like, what? I think it's like, oh, if he wins the Champions League, they're gonna try to make him stay. It's like, no.
No, and
Yeah,
it's because of, and the reason why Ragnick said no was because of the two directors that there. He wanted full control of transfers. He wanted full control of transparency of who stays and who goes. And the two older directors, I forgot the Rummenigge and someone else. I don't remember the second name of the guy. They essentially ruin everything for them. I believe it's I may be wrong on the names. But it's just they don't want to let go, and they're running the club into the ground. It was one of the most stable organizations in world football, who never missed a beat, always got the cheapest deals in the league. All the managers were happy, they were always fed well and performed well. The only missing link every season was winning the Champions League, because there was a Real Madrid, there was a what's it called, the Black Swan
Barcelona.
event of
Yeah,
Chelsea, yeah,
yes,
something like that. But it was out of their hands to win the Champions League, but the league was no question for the past 10. And this, although Bayern Leverkusen is amazing, and not to take away from their win, Bayern's inability to do anything in the league was because of that. And I don't know who's gonna take the job. I just
it's
don't know.
it's gonna be very fun to watch. I think just to wrap up, I think a very different topic. So Royce announced that he's not resigning, and that actually brought up at the same time, because KG, you were texting about like players of that generation, of that style. Jamie Vardy had an amazing season with Leicester, who won the championship and got promoted. So I have a question to you two. So you're Jamie Vardy. You've been with Leicester this entire time. The last time you were in the Premier League, you weren't doing particularly great. You did okay in the championship. If you're Jamie Vardy, is it a good time to finally retire, or do you do another full run at the Premier League?
No, you have one last party, bro.
Yeah,
Even if it's
Jamie
a
Jamie
terrible
Vardy
Vardy.
year?
is having a party.
Jimmy White is having a party. Chat shit get banged, 100%. No,
You think
you're
so?
Yeah, why
doing,
not?
yeah, one last season of Premier League football, and then you can retire. Probably make sure Leicester's safe, and then your legacy cemented. You brought them back in. You went up with them. You won the league. You saved them once. Like your story will have everything. And both Royce and Jamie Vardy, they're the last of their kind. You probably won't have another players like that. Like back in the day, 15 years ago, it was a normal thing, right? Players staying with one team, the Gerards of the world, the Terrys, the Giggses, you name them. There was a bunch of the Totties, and now you can only name those two. It's only
Yeah.
Royce and Vardy, and Royce is leaving on his own accords. But It's just and
Fun
the
to have
end of
Jamie
a
back, though,
type of
right?
a player, I would say. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was gonna be a fun period of time.
Are we excited? Leicester's back. I feel like it's nice to have them back in the Premier League, right? It just
I'm
brings some
more
more interest.
I'm more excited for Ipswich, and I think it's going to be better because it looks like this year in the Premier League, by the looks of it, Luton, Sheffield, and Burnley are all out, and they were. It hasn't happened in a while. I don't know for how long, but usually at least one team stayed. So it was the Brentford came up and stayed, and then the two went down. Then there was someone else who stayed. The two went down. Brighton was another one. I think they came in, they stayed. The two other went down. This is the first time after a while that both of the three teams, none of them managed to stay. All of them are going to go down. So it'll be good to see who's going to be the third one from the championship. And I'm excited to see Ipswich more than I'm Leicester because Leicester kept the most. They only lost Madison. And what was the name of the player who moved to Newcastle? I believe it was to
Oh,
Newcastle.
Harrison Barnes.
Yeah, Harrison Barnes. They lost two or three players, but they kept Dewsbury Hall, who was just a young talent. They kept Fofana. They got rid of Tielemans as well, went on a free. So they managed to get rid of those players that they could live without and they'll have a substitution and kept the old guard. So they came up. So I think they're going to be much more successful than this lot. They're going to be staying up next season.
Yeah.
Maybe barely, but they will be staying up.
Yeah, it'll be interesting days. I think that's a wrap for us. We're gonna have Champions League finally. Yeah.
Quickly,
What?
predictions. You have Borussia BSG tomorrow. PSG Borussia. Who you're finally seeing? 1-0. Jadon Sancho Master Show away at Parc des Princes. Mbappe
I
didn't show up.
Tough to say, man. Tough to say. I think. Oof. I kind of feel like Borussia might squeeze through.
Interesting. I have a
I,
feeling.
I'm feeling the repeat of the Borussia Bayern final.
Ooh,
Interesting.
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 Interesting. I think PSG is gonna take it. I think it's gonna be at home. They're gonna come attacking out of the box. I don't think Dortmund can counter at the same speed that they're able to. PSG is able to. So I think I give a slight edge to PSG. What about you?
I think this game is going to go to pens. I honestly
Wow.
do. I
Oh,
think it's
interesting.
1-0. I don't think if a PSG scores, I think there's a goal in Borussia in the in the game, and then maybe PSG is gonna get another one and just push it over to pens or extra time.
Yeah.
I think Borussia has everything to go through. Like it's a
Yeah.
1-0 advantage. I think they can edge it through. I think they can edge it through as well. We'll
Interesting.
see. And
What about the
Real
other
Madrid,
league?
yeah.
I think this will be the better game. I think like the PSG game will be very tight and defensive, but I think that Real Bayern is going to be out in the open. I have to give it uh, to Tuchel. He has figured out the formula for Champions League, so they're going to be a lot more dangerous than I think people are giving them credit to. But I think it's going to go Real Madrid.
See,
I think
if you're Tuchel, I think so as well. I think if you're Tuchel, like it's gonna be a fiery game. I think
yes,
if Borussia Dortmund somehow like loses 3-0, then this game definitely is gonna go to extra time because I think one of them is gonna go to extra time, not both, because that rarely happens that both games go to extra time and gets decided there. But Tuchel, like people are saying that Bayern Munich is playing for the Champions League and those players are playing for the Champions League, but they know that they have another year and then maybe to try with another new manager. Like their season ends here, but their career does. For Tuchel, he's playing right now for his. This is his PR. This is him taking away something out of this. Like he knows, he probably looks around and he knows, okay, Barcelona's job secured. Javi's thing, by the way, a U-turn that we didn't talk about. Javi was like, okay, I cried a little bit too much. I made a mistake. I'm staying. It's going to be good. So the Barcelona job is safe. Liverpool got their manager. Realistically speaking, Madrid is staying for like Ancelotti is staying for another year. Liverpool, Javi Alonso's not going anywhere. Where can he go potentially without missing a beat? The only place that's open is Man United. What can you bring to come to Man United? You need to win the Champions League or be in a final at least to be like, oh, I made it to the final and the gods were against me because it's a final. And Tuchel's playing for his. He's literally playing for his. Because if he loses it, there's nobody will take.
Yeah,
big,
but
big,
you don't want Tuchel, man. He fucking sucks.
No, I
yeah,
don't
that's
want
what I'm
Tuchel as
saying.
well. I don't want Tuchel, but there are rumors that Ineos are fond of him. And I'm not saying that I want Tuchel. I'm just saying that this is the argument, the story that you will tell, and the story that he will tell for any prospective
Oh,
team out there who wants to hire him. He's
all
going to be,
right.
I'm in
Story
the
of
final.
No, no.
my
Okay.
life.
All right. What's your prediction then for tomorrow?
Oh,
For
Real
which?
Madrid's going through.
Okay, interesting.
Real Madrid's
Nicolas?
going for it. Never bet against Real Madrid.
Yeah, I feel like. Well, I said I'm feeling the repeat of the final. I'm feeling that is really cool to see, but I fail to see how Bayern can beat Real.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. After
It'll
this
be
long
interesting.
monologue, I was like, yeah, Real Madrid. Of course it's
Real
Real.
Madrid.
Yeah.
I think it's probably a good place to stop, and we'll see you next week.
Yep. When Arsenal lose or win, United probably. That was the opposite. Arsenal's gonna win the league at Old Trafford. Let's go.